To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance, and all phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here with you. Well, did the weekend live up to your anticipation?
You know, here's the amazing thing. Again, a little bit behind the curtain in the sports talk industry.
Yes.
When you get past
Chop it up.
The NBA Finals, you kind of hit a spot where you're like, okay, we got to work now until about that third week in July when training camps open up. Because as far as the major sports, you know, with basketball being over, you're still in not even the middle of the season of baseball, hockey being over, football mini camps are over. You got to work. Well, let me tell you what. This has been fantastic.
Gold.
Fantastic between the golf and the U.S. Open, the basketball now with Kawhi Leonard. Thank you, man who never speaks, for doing what you've done for us in this one.
Remarkable.
This has been fantastic. And thank you to the U.S. Open, because we had the leadership retreat at Pinehurst on Friday where we're going to play. There is not one shot I can hit on Friday that we didn't see in the last 4 days.
Golic and Wingo leadership retreat.
What better way to follow up the U.S. Open with what we're going, because what we're going to do at Pinehurst is absolutely what happened the first 3 days of the U.S. Open. It's going to be the same carnage.
All of the shots, legal or illegal, that you saw at the U.S. Open will be mimicked and actually surpassed at this leadership retreat. So excited to do that. Sports did the easiest thing in the world for us this weekend, because you're right. It's harder in the off season because it's sports we're a little less acquainted with for the most part. Pretty much every sport that had a headline this weekend boiled it down to the names we actually know and understand. They made it as simple as possible, and for that we are immensely thankful.
Well, the USGA is the gift that keeps on giving with what happened at Shinnecock. And also we got the World Cup, a lot of controversy there. So we got a lot to get into.
Yeah, we do.
We got some good guests coming up today. Brandel Chamblee, the pint-sized provocateur from the Golf Channel, will join us, talk about the U.S. Open. Brad Faxon, who I'm going to give a hairbrush one time. Just give him a brush.
He's too busy being mad.
Exactly.
The whole golf world is just up in arms.
He will join us as well. Plus, Charles Barkley will stop by as the NBA draft is later on this week. So we got a lot to get to. We're very excited. And, of course, we've had something happen in the U.S. Open that hasn't happened since 1980s, the late 80s, when Curtis Strange was the last man to go back-to-back and win our national championship. So that is what Brooks Koepka now has. So let's dive in as we tell you what's trending. And that is where we began at the U.S. Open. One was about power, the other about patience. Brooks Koepka had a game for both. The U.S. Open, no matter the course, no matter the test, no matter the circumstance, pulled away from a four-way tie to lead with 3 birdies in 5 holes and held off an inspired round by Tommy Fleetwood to take his second straight U.S. Open.
How bad was Saturday? So this thing starts Thursday. Brooks Koepka shoots 5 over, and
75.
There are 4 tied at 1 under. Okay, so then the next day he shoots 4 under. Has a great day on Friday, but Dustin Johnson, you think, is pulling away from this thing. He's 4 under and alone in the lead. And then on Saturday, Koepka actually shoots 2 over par. Shoots 2 over par on Saturday and is tied for the lead. I mean, at +3, 4 players tied for the lead after Saturday at 3 over, and just all kind of attitude going on. Everybody's screaming at the USGA. Phil doing what Phil's doing out there.
Which we will get into.
Let me tell you what, from a spectator standpoint, Saturday, from the World Cup watching that to the golf, was that entertaining.
I think this was as close as golf got to the controversy and entertainment value that we're used to seeing in the other major sports, where you get something like this where the USGA had to come out and address it. This was like their version of the NBA 2-minute report, where we basically admitted we're wrong, knew we could have done something to prevent it and didn't, and now tried to address it as best we could going into Sunday, hoping we would all forget this in time for the end of the tournament to come around.
Yeah, we're never going to forget that, especially with what they've done twice now at this event. And that's the biggest problem. They've still not figured out quite how to stage a U.S. Open at Shinnecock, which is one of the most iconic golf courses in America. Because the same thing happened with the USGA, and we'll get into the controversy a little bit later in 2004, where they actually had to water one of the greens over the weekend between groupings, which never happens because nothing was holding. But I do find one thing that's interesting about this. All the guys that played well at the U.S. Open and were in contention Sunday, none of them were out there bitching about the setup of the golf course. They were just like, yeah, it's kind of sucks, but we're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
We're going to find a way.
I mean, that's what you have to do. Yeah, obviously, you just got to play it. But yeah, there's a little bit of frustration level going on there, huh?
And then there was Phil who pinned the needle on the frustration.
Wow.
We'll get into a little bit later.
Wow.
So a lot to get into there, but most importantly, Brooks Koepka now is on one of the shortest lists in the history of sports in this country. Here's the list of people that have repeated as U.S. Open champs. Willie Anderson. We all remember Willie. 1903, 1905. He did it 3 times in a row. John McDermott, Bobby Jones, Ralph Goldall, and then Ben Hogan in the 50s, Curtis Strange in the 80s, and now Brooks Koepka in back-to-back years, 2017 and 2018. And he did it in 2 completely different ways. Birdie Fest. I mean, absolute Birdie Fest at Erin Hills last year. 16 under par. And then a torture test over the weekend at Shinnecock.
And I'm going to say this so I just don't and don't care about the clock yet again. I was talking to the guys back there while you guys were talking. Did you guys mention Tommy Fleetwood?
Yeah.
No.
How you said no, you said yes.
We've said Tommy Fleetwood a little bit, but not
okay.
We said his name.
Yeah. How about, I mean, he has to be the sickest person out there. How do you shoot a 63 and still you want to throw up all over yourself, which we're going to get into as well? Because he missed that putt on 18. The putts he was making all day that he missed at the end was about as gimme as could be. That would have given him the record, but forgetting that, it would have ended up in a tie, and he'd be playing today 18 holes for the title, missing that short putt.
Stop that now.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So congratulations. We'll get into much more in the setup of the course and the Mickelson controversy a little bit later. Meanwhile, Jack Flaherty and 4 relievers combined on a 4-hitter. Matt Carpenter homered, and the St. Louis Cardinals beat the Cubs 5-0 to avoid a sweep on Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN and ESPN Radio.
Yeah, Javier Baez, he took one off the elbow. That was the 14 home runs leading the Cubs there. He said it was just sore right now, but he should be all right.
I love it. I did enjoy in the broadcast too, A-Rod and company in there, and Alex Rodriguez goes, that's straight off what we call the funny bone. Oh, really? It's what baseball folks call the funny bone, is it? Yeah.
It's only in baseball. It's in their unwritten rule book.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't hit a guy. If you're going to hit a guy, hit him in a funny bone.
Write him down.
But here was the best part of this story is that the Cardinals get this win. Cardinals are 4 back. Cubs are just a half game off the lead there, both with winning records right now. But the Cardinals just stopped from being swept, right? In a 3-game series. So that means how many did the Cubs win? The Cubs won 2 or 3. So what is Joe Madden? Of course it's Joe Madden. What does he do before the presser starts? He plays about a minute's worth of Meatloaf's 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Just to get the point about, we lost this game, but you know what? We won the other 2, and 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Does anyone understand
mid-season? Yeah, it was fantastic.
Meatloaf.
Yeah, he did.
Does anyone understand mid-season baseball quite like Joe Madden?
Good stuff.
He's just a guy. Being self-aware, I think, is going to be something we talk about a lot on this show today in a number of different contexts, but being self-aware is something that's never really been an issue for Joe Madden. He kind of understands the context.
And then there's those that he could have just said it, but he plays it for the media. He ends up playing a minute of the song. It's just fantastic. Good stuff.
That's why he makes summer interesting all the way around. It's not very interesting if you're playing the Astros right now because you will lose. The Astros extended their winning streak to 11, the longest in the majors this season, with that 7-4 win Sunday in Kansas City. Only 4 reigning World Series champions have posted a longer winning streak over the last 80 seasons.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well right now. I would say have a game and a half lead over Seattle. Remember, we were talking about Seattle at the top of that division for a bit. Astros, they've outscored their opponents 81-40 during that streak. They're hitting .327 with 49 extra base hits, including 21 home runs. A total of 8 players with a minimum of 30 plate appearances have hit 300 or better during the streak. So I'd say they're about as hot as could be right now.
Yeah, this is the Astros team that we remember Verlander and company saying, should be the favorites coming into this season. But it's been interesting. You mentioned the Mariners and then the Angels, who sit right there in third in that division, who we know are basically waiting on and hanging in the balance now of how Shohei Ohtani responds to all that treatment. So there's a lot up in the air still for this division that has become sneaky one of the most interesting in baseball this season.
Well, it certainly feels like the powerhouses are in the American League this year with what the Astros are doing and what the Yankees and Red Sox continue to do. And And the Indians?
Yeah.
And the Indians as well.
Sure, why not?
You bet. Yeah. Meanwhile, give it up for my pick, Mexico, baby. An historic 1-0 win over Germany yesterday, just its second win against Germany in 12 meetings all time. And by the way, they become the first team from CONCACAF to beat Germany at the World Cup in 8 tries.
How about that? I thought it would have been very exciting. Obviously, with Cristiano Ronaldo, what he did with his hat trick. Messi had the chance on the penalty kick.
Couple of chances late.
A penalty kick to tie the game. So
jacked it.
To me, it's been very exciting, and it's been exciting more because we had a draft here, and we all have, there's 4 of us.
Although we got a little controversy with that draft, Mike.
And for those that may not know, Trey does, I do, Mike, and then the staff each have 8 teams. We did a snake draft, so we all have at least one team from each group. So that's what we're excited about. Allie, I got to say, we got to change the scoring, okay? Yeah. I mean, Allie took control of this. She's giving me that look that I've seen out of my wife occasionally, like, you better shut up talking about me. Yeah. But we do have to change the scoring. And I think because the scoring.
Why else do we pick Switzerland, Morocco, and Saudi Arabia if we're not going to try to pick up some early points?
The scoring wasn't going to start until people got out of the first grouping of this. Yeah. So we're going to count all the games.
Yeah.
We're just going to score it like they scored. 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, nothing if you lose, and let's see how many points we get.
Yeah, Trey, you said it earlier that really only the losers end up quibbling about the course right now. That's you guys all in this right now. Devin and I sitting over here undeterred. You can score this however you want. We're fine.
Do you know, I don't even, if we score it that way, I'd like to know, we're going to figure that out and see who's winning. Do you think you're winning?
Oh, yeah, we're in good shape no matter what. Again, we'll leave it to the losers to quibble about the details about scoring in the course. Devin and I are just going to stay.
I'm fairly certain I had one hellaciously good weekend.
There's no doubt I'm winning. So
Spain. I mean, Ronaldo kind of at me with the hat trick.
Yeah,
but we got Iceland with a huge draw against Argentina.
That
Mexico
was big
with
for
a
you.
Huge win.
That was a monster.
Switzerland ties Brazil.
Yeah.
I had a really good weekend. I need those points.
Yeah,
I want those points.
Yeah, we're gonna figure it out.
We are making those points.
You guys sound desperate.
All right. Meanwhile, we continue here, and what's trending is done, but we continue with Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka was clearly in the zone this weekend. In the Zone brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. And Koepka, after successfully defending for the first time since Curtis Strange did it in 1988-89, was asked which one did he think was better, his first U.S. Open or this one?
This one. This one's a lot sweeter. To go back-to-back, I mean, I really can't even put it into words. When you look back at the history, it's incredible. It really is. I really can't even put words to it. And, to win on 2 different styles of golf courses. I mean, I think I came in here on Wednesday or whatever and said that the golf courses kind of played very similar as far as shot shaping and the way they kind of look. And I still think that. But, I mean, obviously Shinnecock plays incredibly tough.
Well, yeah I mean, you won at 16 under. At Erin Hills, and I think 1 over. Was the winning score. So just a difference of 17 strokes between years.
And he was paired with Dustin Johnson. They're good buddies. And
they're workout partners.
Said they actually prefer afternoon tee time so they can get a good workout in.
I mean, you look at Brooks Koepka and you understand why. He's a full-on meathead.
And I thought he was bigger than he was because we were talking about this at the end going, look at this dude. Look at how big he is. And we looked and he's like 6'1", $185.
Yep.
But he looks bigger, I guess, next to the smaller golfer. Because if I looked at him, we thought 6'2", 6'3", maybe about 220. I looked at him, I said, dude looks like a linebacker, but
nope.
He wasn't as big as I thought. Looks good out there.
He's a good-looking dude.
He is absolutely good-looking dude out there.
That's the face of golf right there. If you're looking for it right there, good-looking, young, strong, built like a sawed-off Tiger Woods. It's nice.
Well, it's like so many other, when you see like NBA guys on the floor and you see the point guards, it goes, man, they're small.
Yeah.
And then you meet them and they're 3 inches taller than you.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Perspective is everything. But Koepka was able to do something. And, Koepka's one of those guys where it feels like his resting heart rate is about 4. You know what I mean? He never gets excited out there. And that, I think, helped a lot of people that did well in this tournament because there was a lot of controversy about the setup of the golf course, specifically on Saturday when everybody threw it in reverse. I mean, Dustin Johnson
lost 7 strokes, right?
Yeah, 7. He was 7 over par. It was an absolute you-know-what show after what we'd seen for a couple of days, and people got a little crazy. They got so crazy that the USGA actually went on the Fox broadcast and say, yeah, we might have pushed it a little too far. My question is, guys, You did this in 2004 at Shinnecock. How did you not learn anything?
For you were there,
yes.
Okay, and you're the golfer out of the three of us.
Yes.
So explain to people a little bit, because we saw him golfing on Thursday and Friday. All of a sudden, Saturday, everybody lost their collective mind.
Thursday, there was carnage too because of the winds. Yeah,
and then Sunday, all of a sudden, Tommy Fleetwood is a putt away, an inch away from setting a record. Yeah. What made it so difficult? Because the weather didn't look that bad.
The weather was almost identical.
Okay, so why? For us hack golfers out there, what was the issue?
Two things. The setup of the golf course and the pin placement. When I say setup of the golf course, that means how do you prepare the course to be played? The Shinnecock is an interesting dynamic because it's really, they want it U.S. Open tough, but because it's close to the water, it has the Open Championship weather.
I heard a lot of those comparisons.
Where the wind can come in.
Right.
And so how you guard against losing the golf course. You heard Zach Johnson, who's won a couple of majors, a Masters and an Open Championship, said they lost the golf course Saturday afternoon. They didn't put enough water on the greens. And if you look at the color of the greens Saturday as opposed to Sunday, I mean, Saturday it was brown with maybe a hint of green. Mm-hmm. Sunday it was green with a hint of brown. So in other words, you could land the ball Sunday on the greens, and the ball would stay because it was a little more receptive. Whereas Saturday, with almost no water, the golf course was basically starved.
And the pin placement,
and the pin placements were brutal.
Okay,
there were 3 or 4 pin placements, especially on holes 12 through 15, that probably should not have been used. I mean, those greens there are quadrants on that green where no matter where the pin was, there's only about a 10-foot radius where you could try and stop it and keep it on the green.
So it wasn't even about shooting it at the pin. It was shooting at the spot where it would stay on the green.
Jack Nicklaus always had a line once, just because they put a pin on the green doesn't mean you have to aim for it.
No.
Because you want to
kind of ruined my whole thought of golf. I thought that's what you aim for all the time.
Boy, I have to recalibrate some things before this leadership
Tell that to Patrick Reed when he overshot a green and hit the flagpole and saved him.
Exactly.
One time.
But I mean, give you an example. Patrick Reed is a perfect example. Okay, everyone was just brutal out of the stretch on Saturday, right? He birdied the first 3 holes he played Sunday, and then he birdied 5 of the first 7 because he could aim at the flags where they were and the greens were holding. Give you an example. Saturday, for the entire field, there were 3 rounds in the 60s. Just 3. Sunday, there were 15. It was a different golf course Sunday.
Okay, so now what about the hacks like us that say, well, wait a minute, everybody's got to play on it?
Yeah.
I mean,
listen, that's legitimate.
Koepka was only 2 over for that day and tied for the lead through. Dustin was 7 over. I mean, everybody was golfing the same course.
And those guys that managed that and didn't freak out or say things like Zach Johnson did or
do things like Phil did,
hit a moving ball like Phil did. Guess what? They were at the top of the leaderboard. In fact, our guy Tony Finau was right there down the stretch. I thought he was going to pull it off, but he didn't make the birdie on 16, the par 5 that he needed. You have to mentally prepare for torture when you go to the U.S. Open. And my only issue is the USGA needs to decide what they want this to be, right? We all know what the Masters is going to be. They want the roars on the back 9 on Sunday. They want the eagles, the birdies. They want those numbers to get everybody in contention fired up. That's fine. The U.S. Open has always been a stern test. They call it the toughest test in golf. But they made it too tough on Saturday, and then they swung the pendulum completely the other way. Look, I want to give Tommy Fleetwood all the credit in the world. He had a 8-foot putt for the greatest round in the history of U.S. Open, and he missed it. But if you thought that round was out there Saturday, you're kidding yourself. There's no way that round would have been out there Saturday because of the setup of the golf course. He still had to do it and execute it, and it was an amazing round, but there was no chance in hell you're shooting a 63 or potentially 62 without the course was set up on Saturday. So to me, the bigger problem was the USGA had this thing in mind for 3 days. This is what we want. We want carnage. We want this. Because they're still a little sore about what happened last year at Erin Hills. They hate 16 under par. They hate 18 under par like it was in Congressional with Rory. And that's fine. Stick to it then. But then they were like, we overdid it, and then they swung the pendulum back the other way. So what you had was a golf course that played one way for 3 rounds and another way for Sunday, and I'm not sure that's right either.
So you have basically, again, in a number of instances, a bunch of which we haven't gotten to yet, golf kind of falling into a lot of the same traps that other sports have, one of which is falling very publicly to not only the people inside the sport, but all of the noise around the sport, criticizing you for this one decision, and then folding so much so that you go against completely what had been your course of action. You fold in the face of all this outside pressure.
Exactly. And there was someone who I know very well that a pro told him, and this is no disrespect to the local PGA Tour event that's coming here this week, the Travelers Championship. He said a pro told him they've set this course up today like the first round at the Hartford. So it looks like a complete pendulum swing back the other way. It's just you expect a certain thing at the U.S. Open, and they overdid it a little bit, but then they compounded the error by swinging completely back the other way. A huge 180 pendulum swing.
Is your home an ADT home? If not, you have to get ADT and help protect against break-ins, fire, and carbon monoxide. For a limited time, get ADT's lowest rate starting at just $28.99 a month from the most trusted name in home security. Go to ADT.com/podcast to take advantage of ADT's lowest rate.
With 36-month monitoring contract, early termination and installation fees apply. Excludes taxes and fees. Applies to traditional services only. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Macy Gray, very nice. Golic and Wingo with you on a Monday morning, ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
Can I, and this is about you, Trey, and I agree, more cowbell tweeted in, and when I had you kind of explain, I kind of knew, why the course was so tough Saturday, but I wanted someone like you who likes golf to explain it. More cowbell tweeted in, I live to be as excited as Trey Wingo gets when talking about golf. It is true. You go to another level when talking about golf.
It's my Stephen A. moment.
Yeah.
It's what you've been searching for.
I've always said I want to be happy about one thing in my life as Stephen cares about everything. So maybe this is it. I don't know.
You do.
And you know what? And you're incredibly knowledgeable too. That was all really helpful to us, which is why I have to bring this up now because I am very concerned about what you just said coming out of the break. Did you just reference that song as Macy Gray?
Yeah, well, that's not it.
No,
that's
Macy
TLC.
Gray. It's TLC.
Oh, but I think it's a remake of Macy Gray's.
We have to get on that. Is that a sample or something? I want to try and find a loophole for you because TLC Waterfalls. That's a pretty iconic song.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
I'm pretty sure that was originally.
Let's put it this way: as we get ready to talk about Phil, we hope you're right.
Yeah, I hope I'm
right. I hope you're right. I want to.
There it is. TL Waterfall, Macy Gray mashup. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Winner,
Macy Gray's Try Mash. Oh wait, no, that's a mashup cover. That's not.
Oh, okay.
That's not a.
Good
right,
try though.
We're efforting this right now. The crack research team here is on this, but I needed to correct that for posterity because I
was going to leave it alone because I like you. Obviously, he doesn't so much.
I just, I needed to voice this because TLC matters to me.
You know what? And that's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Speaking of Straight Talk, that might be the opposite of what came out of Phil Mickelson's mouth. On Saturday. For those that maybe don't care or were living in a cave or just waking up from a great bender somewhere, Phil Mickelson lit the golf world on fire Saturday when on the 13th green he missed a putt and was heading back to roll off the golf course, roll off the green, and he hit it as a moving ball.
He ran for the ball. He actually ran to it before it ran off the green to hit it back toward the hole.
Yes. So that sort of set everybody crazy because it just, you don't do that.
It's illegal.
It's frowned upon. Yes. It's like George Costanza. Is that wrong? Should I not have done that?
It's something we will be doing at Pinehurst, but we're allowed to.
With that same truffle shuffle.
And we're not trying to win the U.S. Open, which he has come in, ironically, second place six times, a record 6 times. So anyway, after the round where he was assessed a 2-stroke penalty by Rule 14.5 in golf for hitting a moving ball, here is what Phil Mickelson said.
I know what the rule is. It's 2-shot penalty hitting a moving ball. The ball was going to go off in a bad spot. I didn't feel like continuing my display, and I gladly take the 2-shot penalty and move on. I don't mean it disrespectful. If you're taking it that way, that's not on me. I'm sorry that you're taking it that way. It's certainly not meant that way. But sometimes in these situations, it's just easier to take the 2 shots and move on.
Okay.
And that sounds great.
Well,
right?
see, and here's the thing. He had a little while, right, to kind of, before he talked to the media, and everybody was very curious as to what he was going to say. And he kind of laid it out there that if you wanted to take his word for it, you'd go, whether I agree with it or not, okay. If all that went through, because we always talk about decisions in sports, right? We talk about a football play. How many things you think about in a split second? You're like, okay, if all that went through his mind in that split second, I understand it. It happens in other sports, and it all sounded real good.
Phil, media savvy as they come, a guy who's used to the microphone in front of his face, had no doubt he was going to be ready for that moment.
But
expert level troll, okay? Especially at one point he said, well, I've had that rule in my back pocket for a while, and I've wanted to use it.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
You got a little info here, don't you?
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay? ESPN's Ian O'Connor did a great article when he went and talked to people that were playing with Phil. His playing partner, Andrew Beef Johnson, was playing with him.
Love that dude's
And
look.
the standard bearer is the guy that walks behind the guys and holds their sign up that says what their score is. In Ian article, here is what Beef Johnson told him about what Phil said.
So this is what Phil said to Beef Johnson.
To Beef Johnson.
Okay.
And this is Beef saying, quote, he said, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that score that is or what happens now. And he started to speaking to the rules officials. It was a strange moment. And then the standard bearer with the group, a guy named Connor Buff, a 19-year-old Long Island kid and a student at the University of Albany, said he heard Mickelson tell the rules officials, whatever I get, I get. Just let me know what it is. In other words, this whole convenient story that Phil, I've been thinking about using this 2-stroke penalty to my advantage whenever the situation presented itself. Get out of here. Complete, utter, total garbage.
So
not true.
Okay, so when this thing all first happened, and I saw it and heard Phil talk about it before knowing any of this, my thought was, man, the purists are going to lose their minds. And they did we heard one after another, ripping it. And I even tweeted out, my God, it may be bad in your sport, but let's relax where we're going with this thing. And now it's even blowing up even more to talk about changing his legacy. We got guys saying, and I still am not convinced I can go that far with that. But I will ask now, because we always talk about this. There's the crime and there's the cover-up.
Correct.
So what's worse here? What he did or how he tried to gloss it over with what he said when what he really said on the course is so different than that?
I think based off the reaction and the immediacy of it, I would still say the crime. There were people that, regardless of what he was going to say in that moment, I think had already made up their mind about what that moment meant to them as far as him as a golfer and the integrity of the game and all these things that were immediately called into question.
Yeah, look, I'm never going to, it's not going to, I'm not losing sleep over this.
I was going to say, again, you're more the golf guy than we are. What did you think?
I knew that as soon as he did it, his peers would look at him differently. That's to me.
Do you think it changes legacy?
I think it might.
Really?
I think it might. Within that community. There was the Fox broadcast team had an interview with a British writer.
Oh, yeah. I heard that.
He said he's an ass, a silly ass.
Oh, yeah.
It went nuts. So remember this. You would never call hands under the mask, face mask on yourself.
Right, and you
golf,
as an O-lineman would never call, hey, ref, I held on that play. Right, so we do come at it from a different...
Exactly. Golf is the only sport where you call penalties on yourself. You're supposed to do that. And Andy North, 2-time U.S. Open champion, let's just say he was not in any way pleased with Phil.
It wasn't funny. It was disappointing for the millions of people out there that enjoy this game that watch that. I would think that they're disappointed. And why? Well, this is one of the guys who's a legend in our game. And if that's how he wants to run out his career, I don't think he would have done that at the Masters, where he's won 3 times.
Why not?
Well, because he wouldn't do that there. I think he has enough respect for them. I think that was crazy. And this is one of the greatest short game players in the world. If that ball rolls off the green, you don't think he's got some kind of chance to maybe get it back up and in? Disappointed.
I don't think there's any doubt there was a ton of frustration with this round in what he was doing.
He blew a gasket.
So in the sense of, I'm sure in all the Masters he's played, he's had bad rounds where he was frustrated as well. So how much in your mind, because you were, again, on the premises for this, was about also hey, USGA, screw you guys. With this course today is ridiculous. So from the respect factor, he didn't have respect for what was going on that day, to Andy's point of he would never do that at the Masters because of respect for Augusta.
Correct. I think this was him. I think there was a lot of it here. A, it was his 48th birthday. B, he knows that he has the record that no one wants. Hey, congratulations on being runner-up six times.
6 times, right.
I mean, this is probably the one tournament outside of the Masters he wanted to win more than any other. He's never going to do it. I mean, I don't think anybody at his vintage, at 48 or older, has ever won the U.S. Open. It's not going to happen. So I think there was a lot of frustration that was built into this, and I think he's just like, screw you guys. Basically, that's sort of the way I took it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So, and I thought I heard you say it over the weekend. You thought he should have been DQ'd for this.
A lot of people think he should have been DQ'd.
And if he was, I would be fine with it. I tweeted he got a 2-stroke penalty, so he got penalized, and they're like, oh, he should have been DQ'd. I'm like, okay, if they DQ'd him, I'd have been fine with that as well. Whatever the rule says, fine by me.
And this is interesting to me because there's what should be the reaction, what is the reaction from within golf, and then how the rest of us treat it, because a lot of the sentiment seemed to be, this is why people don't identify with golf. It's stuffy.
And that's fair.
It's out of touch.
That's
well,
fair.
I don't think it is fair, actually, because sports is all about overreacting to things that out of context seem nonsensical. Golf here is just a victim of being less popular than a lot of the other sports, because Kevin Van Valkenburg, who writes for ESPN, the magazine, made the comparison to Deflategate.
Right.
His quote was, we spent a year and a half as NFL fans and media fighting over whether air pressure in footballs was the biggest scandal in sports.
And I thought it was the stupidest thing of all time.
And we all thought it was dumb, but it was a big deal because you're talking about a all-time player in Tom Brady who's got a legacy that has to do with the integrity of the game. A lot of the buzzwords marry up, and the reason it's such a big deal amongst his peers and amongst people paying attention is because his name is it's not some random golfer. It's not some, 132nd guy on the tour. It's Phil bleeping Mickelson.
And that leads us to an interesting point, and we'll have that discussion next. Coming up, if this was Milt Tickelson instead of Phil Mickelson, would he have been disqualified? And I think that's a very, very interesting discussion. And that is Straight Talk by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. We'll have that discussion next. And don't forget, I want to hear what you guys have to say. 860-506-5505 about the course or about the Mickelson controversy. Let us know or Brooks Koepka. What is your lasting impression of this year's U.S. Open? Is it how the course was set up, what Mickelson did, or the fact that we had a repeat champion at our national championship for the first time in forever? We'll get to that.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
It is the biggest sporting event in the world. 21st World Cup begins today as host Russia faces Saudi Arabia at Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow. Zablin Stadium. Zablin Stadium.
Good try.
Thank you. 5-time winner Brazil is the betting favorite, followed closely by defending champions from Germania. Germania, yeah.
Sports Center is brought to you by Shell. Premium engine performance starts at Shell with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. Get unsurpassed protection against gunk, unbeatable protection against corrosion, and our best protection against wear.
All right, Golic and Wingo here with you and Mike. I think, we put this out that we have to stick with it. We wanted to revolutionize the scoring system for our World Cup fantasy draft, and we're going to.
Yeah,
but we might have thought this through a little.
Again, we did the draft last week, so there's four of us. Snake draft. Trey, me, Mike, and the staff. So we each have 8 teams. Everybody has one team from each group. And originally we were waiting to score after the first teams got out of the first group, but like, let's just score it how it goes.
Right.
3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie. That way teams that have no shot to get out of this thing can still get us a point with a tie or maybe an unexpected win like Mexico over Germany.
Right.
So we've changed the scoring to 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, nothing for a loss. And we were the ones, me and you, Trey, that were sounding very loud to do this.
It's very important to us.
And because of that, we're tied for last.
There you go.
Go Go ahead.
The new scoring system. Trey and I are last with 6 points. Mike, you are second with 8 points, and the staff is first with 10 points.
But I'm all in on England today, giving me 3 points against Tunisia.
So just to be clear, in the first segment when Dev and I were saying that only losers quibble about the scoring and the setup and that we would be perfectly comfortable with whatever happens because we're confident in our lot in life, and you guys scoffed at me.
Yep.
Now I finally get to
we're those people.
All right,
we're those guys.
I just wanted to make sure we've established that the right way.
It's going to be huge for me when England takes down Tunisia.
Hey, Mike, get off our lawn.
No, that's fine. Coulda, shoulda, wouldas are fine for us. Devin and I will be too busy winning.
Who's got Tunisia? Does the staff have Tunisia?
Does it matter?
Yeah.
I need to know. If you win that match, you're still not going to be in first place. You guys made this big deal.
It's all about getting
You guys thought just because Germany lost that we wouldn't be doing well.
I'll get 3 points and I'll be within one of the leads.
All of you.
It's all, listen, my strategy has all been about England-Tunisia.
Oh, Germany lost. Oh, Mexico, great. Yeah, still in first.
My whole draw has been about England and Tunisia. I think that's clear at this point.
I need a t-shirt that says, "Who's got Tunisia?" Yeah. I need it yesterday. That is the line of the show right now.
Okay.
If the podcast is not named Who's Got Tunisia, we all don't need jobs tomorrow.
Here's the bigger question. If that was anybody else not named Phil Mickelson that did what he did Saturday, would he have been disqualified?
Well, first and foremost, I don't sit here and act like I know the rules. I have people saying he should have been disqualified, and the biggest difference is that he hit a moving ball instead of stopping a moving ball. Without driving us nuts with the intricacies of this, give it to us in layman's terms of why he didn't get DQ'd.
Okay, here's the rule. It's Rule 14.5.
All right, you're already going too deep.
Well, I'm just telling you, these are the rules, okay? Mickelson had used his putter to stop the ball rather than swat at it. The action might have been compelled to disqualify. Rule 14.5 is a 2-stroke penalty for hitting a moving ball. However, USGA also says that a serious breach of Rule 1.2, which prohibits a player from taking an action and intends to influence the movement of a ball in play, may cause a committee to impose a penalty of disqualification. And then there's also Rule 33.7, which gives the USGA authority to DQ a player for a serious breach of etiquette. So really, they could have done whatever they wanted.
A serious breach of etiquette. Talk about the grayest area. He breached etiquette. I mean,
we have a breach.
So here's the question. Okay, let's be honest. The USGA was already getting stinging criticism for the setup of the course Saturday. They had already lost Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, and Jordan Spieth to the cut line.
Right.
By the way, side note, cut line was 9 over. Saturday, if you were +9, you were top 25.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Shows you how crazy it was. So if that was anybody else named Phil Mickelson, because they'd already gotten stinging criticism from the course, and they're like, can we now DQ?
You can't do that at Bushwood.
Exactly.
They'd have been gone,
and I never slice.
They would have been gone,
right?
If it was not
Phil. If it was Milt Mickelson,
I
think he would have been gone.
Yeah. I agree with that.
He would have been gone, but I don't know if the reaction would have been as strong, right? Like, I don't know if we'd be talking about it enough to care if he was gone if it was Milt.
Agreed.
Completely
that's
the entire point.
Yes.
Because the USGA was already getting, I mean, Zach Johnson said they lost the course. Okay. They were getting a lot of crap for basically the way they set the golf course up. So now, if you're the USGA, you're thinking, all right, we're already getting a ton of heat here, guys. We're making some of the same mistakes we made when we were 14 years ago. Do we really want to throw gas on the fire by throwing out arguably the most popular guy left in the field? And whether or not you like Phil or not, that's irrelevant. When he made a par on 13 on Sunday and raised his fist and the crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, whether you like him or not, they love him. The gallery loved him out there. So then, do you really want to be that guy again twice if you're the USGA?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So here's the question, and Dr. Fun tweets this in, and by
the way, Dr. Fun, okay, that's right there with Who's Got Tunisia.
I really would like, because I know that one guy made the comparison of the year-long or over a year-long thing at Deflategate, but something to happen in a game. Dr. Fun says, regarding Phil and the outrage from golf purists, what would a similar infraction look like in, say, the NFL, MLB, or the NBA? This would help a lot of people understand why golf purists are so upset.
That's a great point.
So I would like to know that as well.
I have an example of something that one player thought about doing in another sport, but eventually didn't have to, which might have raised it to this level.
Okay.
And it's you guys will really like this one.
Was it Milt Mickelson?
It wasn't Milt Mickelson. Milt Mickelson, you know what? Milt Mickelson plays for Tunisia. I just found that out.
Put him on the shirt.
Who's got Tunisia and LeBron Watch?
To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. Golic and Wingo with you on a Monday morning. Glad you're with us. ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here with you. It was a crazy weekend in sports. We had some freelance vomiting.
Yes, we did.
We had people puking all over the course in a metaphorical sense.
By their play.
By their play. We also had the World Cup, some stunners already. A lot to get into. And, of course, we want to know what you think of Phil's actions on Saturday. Give us a call, 860-506-5505. We will play those and get into those a little bit later. Plus, it's that time of the year. It's coming up on LeBron Watch.
Yeah.
We have to get to that as well.
Yes,
but
I would
first,
say so.
Let us do what's trending, and let's start with what happened Sunday at Shinnecock. Brooks Koepka put his name in the record books, becoming just the 7th player all-time to win back-to-back U.S. Opens. Koepka pulled away from a 4-way tie on Sunday with 3 birdies in 5 holes and held off a hard-charging Tommy Fleetwood, who was in the clubhouse with a 2-over score, and a record-tying round of 63.
You know, and that this all was on the heels, basically, of Dustin Johnson screwing it up. I mean, Dustin Johnson 3 other times when he led after 54 holes didn't win.
Yeah.
You know, so he has done this before. He was 7 over on Saturday, went from 4 under to 3 over. Going into Sunday, there were 4 leaders at 3 over par. It was absolutely amazing. And you had to really think about it. When Tommy Fleetwood shot that 7 under, had an incredible round. Would you have, because that was asked by one of the analysts, would you rather be him sitting in the clubhouse at 2 over, or be able to be out on the course controlling where you're going to be? And as I think it was Brad Faxon, either him or Azinger said, I'd always rather be trying to control the situation. But Fleetwood was in a pretty nice spot after shooting that 63 and just kind of sitting there and ends up being the runner-up.
Yeah, there's a reason you almost always defer in overtime in college football when you want to see the other team go first, know what you've got to, and then be able to control it after. That's exactly what Brooks Koepka had in that situation, and now goes back-to-back. Another one, under 30, the things he's doing, especially in regards to this tournament, are interesting. On a course and in a tournament where going into the weekend, we said all of this sets up for older, more experienced players to go out there and have success. And so for another one of the young stars in golf to go out there and find his way to the top of this tournament markedly differently than he did last year when he won at the U.S. Open, it's remarkable.
And again, the bottom line for me is mentally he hung in there. You know, the top 2 finishers in this U.S. Open both opened with 75s, 5 over rounds. Koepka and Fleetwood, and yet somehow they found a way to persevere, get back in there, and just deal with it.
Yeah.
I mean, just deal with it. That's literally more than half the battle of a U.S. Open. Just deal. You're gonna have things go crazy. You're gonna have things that you think are unfair, but can you deal with it and move on? And both of them did an unbelievable job of just doing that, and that's why they finished 1-2, and that's why Fleetwood had a record-tying 63, and Brooks Koepka now has a 2nd U.S. Open championship. Well, I feel like we're making more of this than there actually is, because when you're going to turn 41, the end is always closer than the beginning. But Tom Brady says retirement is coming sooner rather than later, acknowledging he's closer to retirement as he approaches his 41st birthday in August. He told Oprah Winfrey in a special that aired Sunday that he's still motivated to keep playing.
Doesn't Oprah just get the most out of you? I mean, she got this out of Tom Brady. She got Tom Cruise to jump on a couch.
She's got Phil Jackson coming up, too.
Yeah.
First time we'll have heard from him since he was fired by the Knicks.
She's able to kind of get stuff out of you. But to your point, Trey, you're 41. Of course you're closer.
I've got 30 more years in me.
You know, and for the obvious reasons. When you heard him talk, kids getting older, doing more with your kids, and he'll keep playing as long as I've always said. People say, why do you retire? Do you lose your love for the game? No. you lose your love for preparing. And he said, as long as I feel like preparing and getting ready for a season, I'll do it. That's the part that people stop wanting to do, especially when the kids are getting older and you want to spend more time with them. I mean, for me, that's what I did. I retired from football so I could spend more times with my kids.
You were retired.
In fact, and the fact that no teams called, if you want to put that in there too, that's fine.
That's just spin.
But that's my story, and I'm going to stick with it.
Same.
Yeah.
No, this is interesting for me. Super Soul Sunday, by the way, the greatest name for any program ever.
Yeah,
Shout out to Oprah on that one.
Yeah.
Brilliant bit of marketing by her.
She's doing well for herself.
Yeah, things have worked out all right for Oprah.
Yeah.
In this, I understand what you guys are saying. The sentiment is largely the same. He says, I'll keep playing as long as I feel like I'm still passionate about all these things. It just, I think it's been the story of this whole offseason, and it's kind of summed up well here, is that before that was never in question. I always described Tom Brady and a lot of these other high-level quarterbacks as these football-consuming robots who never seem to falter in their ability to make you see, this is all I love, this is all I care about, this is my sole focus. For Tom Brady, we're starting to get these looks at a life and a human being outside of football that he hasn't always been willing to give us. And so I think just that admission that I do care about these things in a meaningful way, enough to say that, you know what, like, yeah, the rest of this may stop mattering to me sooner than later. I think that's something that with even the last year or two, he hasn't been willing to necessarily afford.
No, and look, he's been much more candid about some things that bothered him as well.
Exactly.
With the current
How much
regime.
is that coming into play,
also
too?
True.
Yeah.
So when will Tom Brady make the switch to retirement? Make the switch, brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics. Taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Over under 2 years. I give you on Brady.
I had said last year that he would have 2 to 3 more years. So this is the second year of that. I think he goes 2 more years.
2 more years?
Over.
You think you take
he
the
goes
over?
more than that.
I think I give him at least 3.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Wow. Well, let's see if Mother Nature or Mama Giselle decide to have a different situation one way or the other there. And then there's this.
Oh, boy.
Milwaukee Brewer reliever Adrian Hauser, who, by the way, went to Notre Dame.
No, he did not.
Oh, he did not?
He did not. No.
Oh, Counsel went to Notre Dame?
Yeah.
I knew there was a Notre Dame connection. I thought you were just going to yell it out there.
No.
Okay, so anyway, Adrian Hauser, the reliever, made it through the top of the 8th inning of a 10-9 loss to the Philadelphia Phillies on Sunday despite vomiting twice during the inning.
Okay, so let me set the scene for you. He went out there to pitch to start the inning, throwing some warm-up pitches, walked behind the mound and threw up.
Sure.
All right? So his manager, correct, Counsel from Notre Dame, brings out a water bottle to him and lets him sip some water.
Just rinse the mouth out, really.
And, so then he gives up a double and throws up again. And then he gets out of the inning. So he went through the inning, but threw up 2 times, threw up twice, but stayed out there to continue to performing. And certainly not the first or last time that's going to happen when someone yaks out there.
Yeah, what does he want, a gold star?
Yeah.
He did that every day.
Every game you threw up before, didn't you?
Every game, most every practice. Like, it was just what I did. Had to clear the pipes, had to clear the nerves a little bit. And that idea, going out there, manager giving him water, well-intentioned, big mistake on Adrian Hauser's part, though, because the minute you put more in the tank, that's just puking fuel is all that is. You got to wash things out a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a rinse, it's a kind of refresh, but the last thing you want to do is put more in there. You got to dry up the well in this one if you want to stop the puking.
Yeah, and here's Craig Counsell on exactly what went down with Adrian Hauser.
I think for Adrian today, it was just kind of a combination of a bunch of factors. He wasn't, I know he was physically sick, but he wasn't under the weather at all. It was, early wake-up call, not enough food, heat, probably a little nerves from getting to the big leagues today. So, there wasn't very much coming out. It wasn't a food thing.
I love that we're breaking down the volume.
Dry
of the puke.
Heaving now more than throwing up.
The volume of the puke.
There was I forgot his name. There was a nose tackle played in the league that he would always throw up on the field.
On the football.
And he would throw up on the football. Right as the center was going to go, he'd throw up on it. I'd love that.
That's a power move right there.
Awesome. I remember Schlereth telling me that sometimes he and his old linemen before a game would pass around the garbage can and they'll throw up in the garbage can.
They were just waiting to pop. That was the nerve puke. That was where I always was.
Yeah.
Team unity.
My bonding was in the back of the tunnel at Notre Dame by myself. No one else would puke with me.
And the problem with you, though, is when there was a white jersey and you would drink Gatorade, a colored Gatorade, all of a sudden there'd be like orange like down the front of your white jersey.
Yeah, I wore it
Mike threw up again.
I wore it like a scarlet letter. That was my sin that I had to take out in the field with me. But Job well done on this one. Sounded like nerves were at play a little bit, though.
Yep.
Plenty of great. I mean, the world of sports is full of great puking stories.
That's exactly right.
I was able to call up a list called the 20 great puking moments.
Isn't that amazing? You just pulled a Google. Is awesome.
Pete Sampras used to routinely puke during matches. Donovan McNabb puked during a Super Bowl. Tiger Woods once puked while shooting a 68 and winning Bay Hill by 11 strokes.
Yeah.
That might have been the most impressive thing of all time when it comes to puking. But again, kudos to Adrian Hauser for making it through despite giving it up twice. All right, as we continue on Golic and Wingo, again, give us your greatest puking story. 860-506-5505. We're down a weird path. Who's got Tunisia? And Milt Mickelson. We are sort of all over the place on this Monday, but there's a lot to get into. However, we are now presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever. And ladies and gentlemen, we're getting to that portion of the summer.
From the beaches of L.A. to Houston. From Boston to the Bay. And to Cleveland. This is LeBron Watch.
It's not cool.
We're fully ensconced.
Not cool how he does the Cleveland thing.
I don't know.
It's not cool.
It wasn't me.
And Cleveland.
And Cleveland. Fun times in Cleveland. Again. Or will it be? Because the first chip in this whole thing is about to fall, it looks like. As much as we are about where LeBron is going to play next summer, where LeBron chooses to play will be dictated by what happens before that, right? And the biggest chip has always been Kawhi Leonard. What happens to Kawhi Leonard might have a very strong impact on where LeBron goes. We all agree with that, right?
Yep.
Whether or not they can somehow get together in San Antonio or do they go somewhere else? And then after we were off the air Friday, the stories broke out there. Started with Chris Haynes of ESPN that Kawhi wants out.
Mm-hmm.
Kawhi wants out of San Antonio after a very difficult year in which he felt like the team misdiagnosed his injury. They said he was healthy to come back and play. He said he wasn't fully recovered. It became a thing, and now it's become such a thing that he wants out. And the story is that he wants to go to L.A. And obviously
I love L.A.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Obviously, that means the idea perhaps of both Kawhi and LeBron ending up in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it does.
I love L.A.
Let me start first with, I've been saying that everybody talking about LeBron to L.A. because of the entertainment world,
no.
I didn't buy into. And even LeBron and Paul George, for what they'd have to move around that roster, was not good enough to beat Golden State. You throw Kawhi Leonard into that mix, I have completely changed my tune. They all go to L.A. Certainly it's going to be a roster change there, but that's a team, in my opinion, that could compete with Golden State. Now, there's a couple of things to go there. Remember, Boston already tried to trade for Kawhi Leonard last February, and that didn't go through. Would they jump in it again? Would San Antonio want to trade Kawhi in the Western Conference? So you got to play against him now, or do you ship him off to the East if Boston wants to come to the table again on that one? So which direction do you go there? And do you trade him? Remember, Cleveland didn't have to trade Kawhi or Kyrie Irving,
right?
But they traded him.
They just did.
Now, there was only 1 year before Kawhi gets to decide what he wants to do. So maybe it's like, okay, if he doesn't want to be here, let's see what we can get for him, because they could get a haul for him. So do you make that move? And that's, again, where the players can have all the power. I don't want to be here, trade me, so you better look to trade the guy so you can get something for him.
Yeah, I think that, and I had someone say before that this situation was in no way like Kyrie because Cleveland was trying to keep LeBron happy. What about Kyrie leaving was good for LeBron?
Exactly right.
Nothing. Cleveland had far less reason to trade Kyrie Irving.
Just as Kyrie would have, you be a professional, LeBron the same thing. Go to another championship and maybe, make it more competitive.
Exactly. So the San Antonio Spurs have much more reason to trade Kawhi Leonard because of the contract situation, and quite frankly, because we don't know what this means going forward. We talked about Kyrie. What was he going to do? They were going to make him, he would show up to training camp, he'd be a distraction and all these things. With Kawhi, there's another level, because what did he do the last half of the season? He was medically cleared by the Spurs doctors for most of the end of the season, and because his camp said no, he's not ready, he was held off the court. I mean, how much longer do you play that game? This is already an injury that the length of recovery has been disputed by his teammates and other people in that organization. There are plenty of ways Kawhi can make this a nightmare for San Antonio silently if he so chooses.
Well, he's sort of already done that this year, right? I mean, we talked about this as this was going on in the wintertime. If this were any other superstar on any other team, it would be perceived completely differently, right? But because it's the Spurs and Greg Popovich always finds a way to get everybody pulling on the same page, and because it's Kawhi, who was one of the quietest superstars out there, it was like, well, that's just the way he goes about his business. Nobody else would have been doing that. So the question then becomes, just because he wants to go to L.A., why would
I love L.A.?
Why would they want to acquiesce to where he wants to go?
Agreed, because he doesn't have a no-trade clause.
Correct.
Now, the thing is, wherever he gets traded to, you'd like to end up having a deal with him, because then there's a thought, me being from Cleveland and loving Cleveland, why not Cleveland trade for him?
Yeah, well,
go to Cleveland.
Well, according to Cleveland.com, they are among the teams trying to pry Kawhi Leonard away from the Spurs, but a workable offer wouldn't be easy. Kevin Love will make $24 million next season with a player option close to $25. So he would be useful for salary matching purposes, but San Antonio seems more interested in acquiring young talent, an established player like Love.
And listen, with the Lakers, that's what they'd be getting, a ton of young talent there coming back their way. But man, going to Cleveland, they would actually have a person that could play defense now, which would certainly be a feather in Cleveland's cap.
Yes.
But yeah, that would be my thought. Man, Cleveland, do everything you can to work it out, but I don't know if they, exactly what that article said, have what San Antonio is going to want to get in return that a Boston could offer them or Lakers could offer them with that young talent, and saying, okay, if we're going to lose this guy, we need to get back a truckload, which includes obviously picks and some young talent.
Yeah, that'll become interesting as how much it becomes worth, because you already hear rumblings and worry out of Los Angeles now about the injury for Kawhi, which to me clearly indicates they're just trying to see how low they can get this price, because there is that question of knowing a player wants out, how much do you get in return?
Right.
Knowing he's got 1 year left on that deal and can hit free agency, how much do you get, or can you make them offer for it? There's a lot of questions that hang in the balance about the value, but I think when it comes to the decision, if you're going to team up somewhere, this is where all of the trappings of LA become desirable, because if you're choosing between let's join up in Cleveland or let's join up in Los Angeles, I know where if I'm Kawhi Leonard and I can shape this discussion at all, I'm probably pushing for it.
And remember, there are a lot of people saying, well, wait, why Kawhi in LA? He's from LA.
Right.
I mean, so that's one of the reasons that he's from there, because a lot of people are thinking, wait, Kawhi's not an LA guy, as far as
it's
the
home.
actions, but it's home. So, so I'm sure Marcellus Wiley, the resident Clipper fan, is saying, hey, Clippers are in LA. Let's do that. Let's do this.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I'm sure he'd want it. I mean, who wouldn't want this young player, this fantastic player?
Well,
but you do have to ask really quickly as well, though, how bad is the injury? Where is he with that injury?
That's completely fair.
And between that and then you have, I heard you talking about Mike Jeannie Buss with one of the greatest cryptic tweets out there when she was in New York, right?
New York.
Don't underestimate. What was the?
Yeah, don't ever underestimate.
Yeah.
That is all.
Oof.
I mean, it was a couple of days before this happened, but you wonder if it's just Jeannie flexing. And of course, we have no idea the context of that, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. It's the enemy of what we're trying to do here. But the injury and how Kawhi's camp is going to cooperate with the next team, because that has been, as much as anything else, the distrust. And I think the word that kept getting thrown around was betrayal with San Antonio, because we remember last week, what were we hearing about them leading up to this announcement on Friday? Was that Kawhi was still getting ready to sit down with Greg Popovich, that they had that meeting set up. They wanted to get together face to face to try and hash this out. It's my understanding that meeting still hasn't happened. So we've got that hanging in the balance. Is there anything Pop can do when the word betrayal is getting thrown around by the people closest to Kawhi Leonard?
Well, one thing Pop has always been able to do is smooth things out, right?
Yeah.
We've seen that over time. That
he just did it with LaMarcus Aldridge last summer.
Exactly. So we'll see if that plays into this going forward. But when you mentioned Boston, I couldn't help but think the idea of this, because there's a player option and a team option on Kyrie Irving's contract, and he's discussed that why it makes no sense for either him or the team to pick up that option after this season, as opposed to maybe next season. Okay, so let's say somehow Boston says, well, wait a minute, we did pretty well this past year. We're getting Hayward and Kyrie back, but if we get Kawhi, can we also get LeBron? And if we get LeBron, do we really need Kyrie anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, that's next level, right? That maybe Kyrie goes over there because he wants to get out of LeBron's shadow, and then because of the contract situation dealing with his injury and the more money he can make by doing it later, if suddenly that all works against him and then Kawhi and LeBron go to Boston and suddenly he finds himself out of Boston.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be interesting.
There was already talking. Kyrie was already asked about the thought of LeBron before the Kyrie thing came out about LeBron going to Boston, and he's like, I don't make those decisions, playing it off that way. But the facelift that Boston has had and may continue to have could be really interesting because I still look to them, especially if LeBron leaves, to be that team in the East.
The wild card is Danny Ainge. We've seen he never seems satisfied sitting on what he's got. He's always looking, is there a way to improve this? And when you know that they were already looking for Kawhi before the trade deadline, and you understand San Antonio, very real reasons why they thought this was still going to work out and trading him wasn't going to be the thing they wanted to do then, might reassess now and say, all right, you got a lot of nice tools in the shed over there. Let's fork some of them over.
And that is why the summer of LeBron is going to be very, very interesting.
Is your home an ADT home? If not, you have to get ADT and help protect against break-ins, fire, and carbon monoxide. For a limited time, get ADT's lowest rate starting at just $28.99 a month from the most trusted name in home security. Go to ADT.com/podcast to take advantage of ADT's lowest rate.
With 36-month monitoring contract, early termination and installation fees apply. Excludes taxes and fees. Applies to traditional services only. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
All right, on a Monday after the U.S. Open, glad you're with us on Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And speaking of the phone, call us up, 860-506-5505. Give us your thoughts on either what happened with Phil on Saturday or what the USGA did with the course at Shinnecock Hills. And we'll have those later on in the show. But right now, we are delighted to be joined by Golf Channel analyst Brandel Chamblee on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Rule number one, if you're going to have dinner with Brandel Chamblee Saturday night at the U.S. Open, just forget it. He doesn't show up till almost 11 o'clock. It was ridiculous, dude. We were so far in by the time you guys got there, we were done, just so you know.
You were. As the day went on, and I saw pictures of you, your eyes got a little redder as the day went on. I knew what I was getting into when I got there. But this is how I roll, you know. I'm like, we get off the air at 10:30. What are you going to do? I mean, we don't get to dinner till 11. I keep singer's hours, basically.
Well, that's true, and he has vampire blood, so that also works. All right, Chamblee, let's start first and foremost with there's two controversies that we've been dealing with this morning. First and foremost, the course setup. Can you explain, and I tried to do a decent job with it, and I think I did a little bit of it, of the USGA's overreaction to Sunday setup as opposed to Saturdays when we saw the absolute carnage, because we had only 3 rounds in the 60s on Saturday, and they completely swung the pendulum the other way, and lo and behold, we had 15 60 rounds on Sunday.
Well, in 118 years of the U.S. Open, the biggest disparity that has ever been shot is 16 shots between a Saturday and a Sunday round. 16 shots. This year, Ricky Fowler shot 84, then 65. That's 19 shots. 19 shots. It's the biggest disparity in the history of the third and fourth round. And there was also somebody Patrick Rogers, who had 16 shots different. So in the history of 118 U.S. Opens, you got 2 of the greatest disparities. I think that pretty much sums it up. It wasn't that the golf course was unfair on Saturday. It was just the whole locations were just out of hand. Several of them were quite ridiculous. And as the day wore on, it turned the golf tournament completely inside out. You had players that were 45th. Never has that happened. 45th. Who shoot 66. They didn't shoot 63 or 62. They shot 66 and made up 11 shots. It was, you had players at the top of the leaderboard who basically shuffled down to almost the bottom. So, I think everybody was pretty upset. This is, yet another U.S. Open where the USGA completely missed it.
So take us through a guy like Dustin Johnson who loses 7 strokes on Saturday. He never looks like anything affects him the way he acts out there. Tough to get, in my opinion, at least watching, to get a read on him. Talk about the mental side of that, playing Saturday when things are going bad on a course that's just destroying everybody.
Well, I think if I were Dustin Johnson, I'd have every reason to be upset. Not only, and if you look at who played Saturday afternoon, Dustin Johnson was 4 shots ahead. he played in the worst of the draw Thursday, Friday. His 6 closest pursuers all played in the best of the draw. So that'll tell you how much better he played than everybody else. So then he played by far in the worst of the draw on Saturday. So, throughout the week, there was nobody that played better golf than Dustin Johnson, but nobody was more unlucky. Nobody. I mean, luck plays a big part in all the championships and the outcome of them, but Dustin Johnson played the best golf of anybody. It was just that he got the worst luck of anybody in the field. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's upset about it.
Talking to Brandel Chamblee on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And I guess speaking of upset, it seems like everyone has a lot of feelings about Phil Mickelson and what he put on display on the course on that 13th green this weekend. What was your reaction, and what's it been like watching golf sort of absorb this moment?
Well, if he'd have said he lost his mind, right? Because I don't know. The U.S. Open, I lost my mind. I think everybody would have said, okay, I kind of get that, even though with his position in the game, there's no excuse for it. But there would have been mostly everybody would have understood it. But when he came in and he said that he did it strategically and he did it to avoid having a more difficult shot run off the green, immediately he should have been disqualified. Immediately, because that's a serious breach of the rule and it demands that you be disqualified. The USGA has a knack. You go back a couple of years ago, they penalized Dustin Johnson for something that made absolutely no sense. And they did not disqualify Phil Mickelson for something that made perfect sense. Why they didn't do it, I have no idea. So, again, they missed the boat. And as regards to Phil Mickelson, never, ever in my life have I ever seen anything like it. Yeah, okay, John Daly's done something like it. Kirk Triplett kind of did something like it. But never, no disrespect to them, they weren't the player that Phil Mickelson is. They didn't hold the place in the game. There'll be kids trying to go do this. They'll call it a Mickelson. This will catch on. He has that kind of influence. There's no video of Arnold Palmer or Bobby Jones or Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, Nancy. There's no video of any great player ever doing this. And then Phil thought he was clever. He was trying to say, I'm smarter than everybody else. And if you thought this without applying, you need to toughen up, with that tango smile of his. So it was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Well, to that point, Brandel, if we're talking about Phil Mickelson hitting that moving ball on the 13th green on Saturday, the big that's obviously a big part of it. But then what he said afterwards didn't jibe with what his playing partner said that he said at the time. When he was being interviewed with Curtis Strange on Fox, he said, well, I've had that rule in my back pocket. I've wanted to use a bunch of times. But if you listen to his playing partner, Beef Johnson, he said to the officials, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm going to get what I get. So we're seeing two completely different stories here.
Yeah. The second it happened, I thought to myself, well, he's got an hour now to think of a proper excuse for what he did. I'm pretty sure that's why he did it, because it was going to run off to the front of the green. And then he said as much. That's exactly what we thought. It's going to run off the front of the green. He's going to have the same pitch that he just had, and who knows, he'll go, because he had been to the back of the green. He chipped it to the front. And meanwhile, playing at the exact same time, Daniel Berger, I'm trying to remember who, Tony Finau. They managed to make par birdie on that hole. So, it wasn't like it was unplayable. It was certainly a ridiculous hole location. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't. It was a ridiculous hole location. But it wasn't unplayable like people like to say. The scoring average on that hole was 4.5 for the day, and that's including Phil's 10. So it wasn't like everybody was making double or triple on the hole. He said he did it to get an advantage. No question about it. How the USGA does not say, Phil, off you go, is beyond me. And then how Phil doesn't just WD after he realizes what he said and actually understood the rule. I don't think he understood the rule. It's just beyond me. It's one of the more bizarre things I've ever seen. And it'll be, yet again, another part of Phil's legacy, just like his comments after the 2014 Ryder Cup. That's where he basically worked from the inside out and sabotaged Tom Watson's Ryder Cup team. And then just basically stole the limelight away from the European success after winning it. So, it pretty much shows, what Phil's capable of, and it was hard to believe.
Golf Channel analyst Brandel Chamblee on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. So a lot of times we talk about the NCAA and when there's an infraction there, and then the team or the school tries to cover it up, and we always ask, which is worse, the infraction or the cover up? So for golf, for you golf people, for all the golf purists out there,
you golf people,
I didn't mean the golf people. What's worse, what he did or his explanation of trying to cover it up?
That's a good question. I'd say what he did. I don't know. That's a good question. Probably his explanation. He had come in and just owned up to it. If he had just come in and said, I don't know. I guess he did it for an advantage. The cover-up, by the USGA. It was just bad all the way around. The actual event, his explanation of it, the USGA not DQing him. It was like 1, 2, 3. It was like a trifecta of lunacy. It was like, I don't know. Good question. They were all ridiculous. Somebody needed to have a clear head in this and say, you're disqualified or I withdrew. But the actual event will go down. This will be a part of his legacy. It'll run. 20 years from now, I'm sure 20 years from now, people will be, they'll be giving him grief about it tomorrow. And today they'll be giving him grief about it. And it's real easy to laugh at it. It really is. It was, I get it. It was as funny as it was stupid. But when you actually look at who Phil is and realize that there is no equivalent to this, given his place in the game, it was just lunacy. And it actually stole away from the play that day. Instead of us getting on the air and talking about Tony Finau 66 or Daniel Berger 66 and talking about the implications of the day and how it went, we mostly talked about Phil Mickelson. So once again, just like the Ryder Cup in 2014, he stole the luster away from those who deserved it.
Well, with that in mind, as Brandel Chamblee from the Golf Channel is with us, you just said because he's Phil. So let me ask you this. If that had been anybody else not named Phil Mickelson, with the withering criticism that the USGA had been heaped on by players and other people for the course setup, whether it was fair or not, if that was somebody else, would it have been disqualified, or was he not disqualified because he was Phil Mickelson?
Well, I think everybody else would have been disqualified unless they had similar status to Phil Mickelson. It doesn't appear like there's an equitable disbursement of the rules, does it? Dustin Johnson getting a penalty 2 years ago when he took a practice stroke beside his golf ball, did not hit his golf ball, and his golf ball moved. And they come in and say, Dustin Johnson, I think if you look at it, he won by 3.
Right.
But he actually won by 4. But the USGA just took a stroke from him. And at the end of it, Dustin, he's such a nice guy. I don't care. Just take the stroke away from me. I still want to know. But he didn't really fight for it. He didn't protest. I just can't imagine Phil getting in that situation. So Phil sort of, squirmed his way out of this one, and the USGA sort of acquiesced to his position in the game.
A little disappointing because it takes away from what should have been the headline, which is Brooks Koepka doing something that hadn't been done since Curtis Strange did it in 1988 and 1989.
Exactly right. Yeah, right. Exactly right.
Brandel, always good to talk to you, my friend. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Nice talking to you both. Y'all take care.
Right. Brandel Chamblee basically saying, it was anybody else.
Yeah.
They would have been disqualified.
Nice to talk to you both. That's pretty messed up, Brandel.
Yeah.
Well, I think he meant both Golics. He's seasoned
up.
That's fair enough. As long as that was it, I was going to say, wow, you think know somebody as well as I know Brandel.
There you go.
For him to betray me like that on the stage.
Twitter poll, how well do you think you actually know Brandel? That's coming up next.
Next, you're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie. This does look fun. Whee-oh! You melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Golic and Wingo with you, ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Again, we'll get your voicemails coming up in just a little bit. What did you think of what Phil did on Saturday? 860-506-5505. By the way, one of the great things about the U.S. Open is it's pretty good people watching. We were down there for the weekend at Shinnecock, and you walk around, you see, especially when it's in New York, a lot of people out there. And I walked into the media center with some friends of mine, and lo and behold, who did I run into? Sam Darnold and Josh Allen were there. Quarterback for the Bills, quarterback for the Jets.
There you go.
They were just hanging out. Apparently, they trained together before the draft, so they're tight a little bit. So we talked about that, and I told them, "Hey, listen, I was really happy with how you guys have progressed through 7-on-7 drills.
Yeah,
really saw the incremental progression. They sort of laugh.
And I'm sure they're really good golfers because they wear red jerseys to practice and never get hit.
And it's amazing. Those guys in the specialists always seem to be the best golfers on the team. It's crazy how that times up somehow.
Their fingers aren't going in different directions.
Not mangled like this, that you can't hold a club in certain ways. So that's always a lot of fun. The other thing that may be changing is the NBA says that it looks like that one and done thing is going to be done, but with the caveat, Mike, it'll be done in a while.
Yeah, remember we talked about in college, Condoleezza Rice was commissioned to kind of get this group together to talk about some of the things going on in college basketball, and one of the things was a recommendation about the one and done. But remember, that's an NBA rule. I bring that up to remind people this is an NBA rule, which was instituted in, I believe, 2005. So that the NBA is the one that put it in, and the NBA is going to be the one that takes this out. And why it probably won't be till 2021 or later is, as of now, no team owns a first-round pick in 2022 or any year beyond that owes a first-round pick, meaning it's all about trades. Yeah. If you have trades that are in the next couple of years and they get rid of this rule now, you kind of get screwed. So they're letting it play out with the trades, with the possibility of the one and dones until 2021. I believe there are three first round. There are 2021 first round picks. Two of those three could change hands earlier, so that could be done a little earlier. So they're kind of waiting for all that to play out with the trades and then get rid of the one and done, which I think everybody's going to be happy about.
Yeah, this is a little backhanded way of bringing it about because it wasn't mentioned by name or anything, but like you said, it kind of just reminding people, hey, keep this in mind as we approach the draft coming up later this month. And you're right, this is going to be a rule that I think a lot of people are looking forward to, but at the same time, we wonder what the middle ground is because we've always wondered if you can get rid of that rule, does it say, all right, yeah, there's no more one and dones, but if you now go to college, are you bound there for a couple years? Are you bound there for 2 or 3? Is there anything in this that secures their side of things? Because we know this is an NBA, this was technically an NBA rule, but you're sure it's done in conjunction with this idea that it benefits college, and so they'd be receptive to it.
Because that's what baseball is right now. Baseball, you can leave out of high school if you get drafted, but if you go to college, you have to stay for 3 seasons in college. So will there be something like that? And also, Trey, this just can't happen, in a vacuum. We're getting rid of the one and done. NBA is working more closely with youth basketball, and in doing this, so now high school seniors are going to be brought into the limelight yet again. So they have to improve, and they talked about it, improve the G League. So if kids don't want to go to college, that they have better options in the G League to go to, so it's a better pay and more secure of a place for them to go, because not everybody is meant for college and may want to take a different road.
This is just the first of many things that's going to be changing in conjunction with the NCAA and the NBA, because you're right. There are a lot of options that people find attractive, but there's also some things that people find sort of upsetting about the one and done thing. It never really bothered me, the one and done thing. Did it offend you in any way, shape, or form?
No, but I think you should be able to, if you can get drafted out of high school, get drafted out of high school.
Absolutely.
Should have every right to.
Look, this is about if you have a special. It's like when people say, "Oh, what about football players and basketball players shouldn't be paid because the girls lacrosse team or the men's diving team won't be paid." If you have a skill set where you are marketable, isn't that why you go to college? You go to college to improve your ability to get a better job and to make more money.
And I think this is more akin. You often heard the argument for guys like Leonard Fournette who looked like ready to go to the NFL after their sophomore year. And people say you don't make a rule for a few. There are a lot more kids that this will affect than just a handful ready to come out of high school.
Absolutely. So, Junior, congratulations. Your contributions to the show are many and complete today, including naming the podcast Who's Got Tunisia. I want to know why America's greatest soccer player isn't rooting for Tunisia. Apparently he's rooting for Mexico. We'll get to that after this. Stay classy.